Hi, this is Anna, and welcome to this Somport Deep Cut. Today we're traveling through North Italy, a region so vast, so stylistically diverse, and so technically demanding that it sits right at the heart of diploma theory. This is one of the places WSET leans on when it wants to test whether you can hold landscape, grape, and winemaking logic all at once. And like everything in Italy, nothing here is simple. North Italy stretches from the Alps to the Adriatic, from fog drenched hills to warm, breezy plains. Every valley, every slope, every soil change creates a new wine language. The textbook splits it into northwest and northeast, but for this audio journey, I want you to think of it as one long thread: altitude, climate, and culture weaving styles together. Let's begin in the northwest, in Piedmont, because somehow all roads in Italian wine seem to pass through Nebbiolo. When you stand in Barolo or Barbaresco, the landscape feels almost sculpted for Nebbiolo. Calcareous marls in some villages, tighter sand and clay based soils in others, combined with slopes angled towards the morning or afternoon sun, create an intricate mosaic of ripening conditions. Fog pools in the valleys, rainfall spikes late in the season, harvest dates shift with altitude, and Nebbiolo, thin skinned but naturally high in tannin and acidity, refuses shortcuts. It needs the right exposure, the right drainage, the right length of season. If you're asked to explain stylistic nuance, this is where you start. Site determines structure. In the winery, traditions run deep. Barolo and Barbaresco require long maturation by law, but stylistically the shift has been dramatic. From the historic long macerations and years in large old casks toward gentler extractions and calibrated combinations of large and small oak. Because Nebbiolo is so transparent, you feel every decision immediately. But Piedmont isn't one story. Barbara, vigorous and naturally high in acidity, offers juicy, red fruited wines that range from fresh and bright to dense and barrique matured. Dolcetto, deeply colored but fragile in the vineyard, delivers soft tannins and blackberry fruit when handled with care. And the whites, Cortis in Gavi, Arnis in Ruero, express subtle stone fruit, floral lift, minerality, and a delicate balance between ripeness and preserved acidity. Further north, in Gemme and Gattinara, Nebbiolo shifts again. Cooler climates, greater diurnal range, and higher altitudes produce paler, more mineral, more linear wines than those of the Langhe. If the Northeast is shaped by scale, Piedmont is shaped by smallness and fragmentation. The textbook emphasizes that the Langhe remains a region of small family owned farms, often just a few hectares. Historically, growers sold fruit to larger houses or merchants. But as Nebbiolo's reputation rose, and with its prices, more families shifted to estate bottling, retaining control over margins and identity. This is why Barolo and Barbaresco sit firmly in the premium to super premium tiers. Tiny production volumes, high labor demands, long legal aging, 3 plus years for Barolo, 2 plus years for Barbaresco, and global demand. Around 80% of Barolo and 60% of Barbaresco is exported, mainly to the US, UK, Germany, and Scandinavia, markets that reward cellar worthy collectible wines. As Burgundy prices soared over the last decade, collectors looked for the next long aging terroir transparent region and found Piedmont. The introduction of MGA vineyard names only strengthened that momentum. Even the lower tier Nebbiolo categories, Langhe Nebbiolo and Nebbiolo d'Alba, have benefited from this halo effect. They provide accessibility, earlier drinking, and better margins for producers. Economically, Piedmont stands apart. High touch, small scale, long aging, and a global luxury market that keeps pulling prices upward. Now cross into the northeast, beginning in Trentino Alto Adige, a place where altitude is the great architect of style. In Trentino, valley flows warm quickly in summer, but cold night air draining down the mountains resets acidity and lengthens the season. Cooperatives dominate production. Cavit alone represents around 60% of all wine made, and this shapes pricing, scale, and the clean, early drinking style the region is known for. Whites like Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, Muller-Thurgau, and reds like Teroldego tend towards freshness, simple fruit expression, and good value. Climb higher into Alto Adige and everything sharpens. Vineyards sit between 300 and 700 meters. The region enjoys nearly 300 days of sunshine, warm valley air currents, and dramatic diurnal ranges, a perfect combination for aromatic whites. Pinot Bianco, Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, Gewürztraminer. Schiava gives pale perfumed reds. Lagreen gives deeper structured styles when planted in the warmest sites. Here the exam logic is clear. Altitude equals diurnal range equals acidity retention equals aromatic precision. The Northeast business story begins here. Cooperatives. With many growers farming 1 to 2 hectares each, cooperatives handle the winemaking, branding, and export strategy. This creates reliable quality, strong price stability, and clear market positioning, especially in hospitality and specialist retail markets domestically. Move east into Friuli, and the landscape and the logic shifts again. Friuli is defined by two contrasting worlds: the fertile plains, producing high volume approachable wines, Pinot Grigio, Glera, and other international varieties grown at high yields, and the hillside zones of Collio and Friuli Colli Orientali. Here, altitude, slope, and ponca, which is compacted marl and sandstone, create low yielding textural wines of greater concentration and complexity. Friulano, Ribolla Gialla, Sauvignon Blanc, and Chardonnay all express this hillside signature. Modern Friuli's reputation comes from its adoption of stainless steel, temperature control, cultured yeast, and pneumatic presses, techniques that define Italy's clean white wine evolution from the 1960s onward. But it also holds the deep tradition of orange wines, extended skin contact, ambient ease, amphorae, and low intervention philosophies rooted in Oslavia. For exams, Friuli is a map of contrasts: technically modern versus ancient skin contact traditions, plains versus slopes, volume versus identity. Friuli's exports have grown steadily, driven by the global appetite for fresh, well made whites and the popularity of both Pinot Grigio and Prosecco. But competition is fierce. Trentino Alto Adige now rivals Friuli in clean white wine production. Eastern Europe competes aggressively on inexpensive Pinot Grigio. The hillside DOCs maintain their prestige through limited yields and strong restaurant placements. And finally, we arrive in the Veneto, one of the largest wine producing regions in Italy. Here, Soave has Garganega as the predominant grape, which grows on two landscapes: basalt and limestone clay hills, producing mineral, high acid, age worthy wines, Soave Classico, and the fertile plains producing softer, simpler expressions at high yields. Lees aging, temperature control, and mostly neutral vessels preserve purity. Suave's business dynamic is export driven. Around 85% of production goes abroad, mainly to Germany and the UK. And while volumes have decreased over time, value has held steady. Valpolicella is the academic core of the Veneto. Everything hinges on how Corvina, Corvinone, and Rondinella react to site picking decisions and, most importantly, the appassimento process. Drying grapes for 3 to 4 months concentrates sugars, flavors, acidity, tannins, and glycerol. From this one technique emerges the entire stylistic ladder. Valpolicella, fresh, bright, early drinking, followed by ripasso, deeper, fuller secondary fermentation on Amarone or Recioto pomace. Amarone, dry or off dry, powerful, high alcohol, intensely flavored. And Recioto, sweet, perfumed, and historic. Site matters. Hillside fruit gives structure, valley floor fruit lacks the tension required for higher quality tiers. Amarone changed everything. Production has grown sixfold since the mid 1990s, and Ripasso nearly fourfold in the following decade. Growers received 3 times the price for Amarone grapes compared to basic Valpolicella. This shift reshaped vineyard economics, encouraged more drying loft infrastructure, and tilted the region's identity toward premium and super premium tiers. Approximately 65% of Amarone is exported, mainly to Germany, the US, Switzerland, and the UK, making it one of the region's flagship wines in the global market. And that's the story of North Italy, a region you cannot memorize, you must understand. Altitude explains the whites of Alto Adige. Soils explain the discipline of Barolo. Drying conditions explain Amarone. Plains versus hillside logic explains Friuli's quality divide. Cooperatives explain Trentino. Export markets explain Soave. Small farms and global collectors explain Piedmont. And tradition versus innovation explains almost everything else. This is why North Italy sits at the center of diploma theory. It rewards students who think in systems, not lists. If you'd like to dig deeper, I've linked the companion written strategy below. It includes potential exam framings, region by region approaches, and exactly what I'm drilling before the exam. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next deep cut.